Hi everyone, number one Marmaduke fan here, and today we are looking at Woman World by Aminder Dalewal. And my, as I was reading this, this is about a universe where men do not exist and only women remain. Now, I think I'm sensing a strong Tumblr art style. I'm sensing a strong intersectional feminist vibe from this. One nagging question I had throughout this book is, okay, what about trans people? Because if men are eliminated because of a genetic defect, that sounds like you're talking about chromosomes. So if everybody with an XY chromosome is gone, does that mean that what do you think is the terminology? Does that mean that trans women are gone from the world? If anyone who has an XX chromosome identifies as a man, well, this couldn't be woman world anymore because there would be men with XX chromosomes in this world. So do none of the XX chromosome havers identify as trans men in this world? What is this? So I think woman world is meant to be a tongue-in-cheek take on like this old like 1910s feminist literature idea of like Mother Gaia and this perfect society of lesbian women who procreate without men. And as I looked at it, I kind of wanted to give Aminder Dalewal the benefit of the doubt. Like something creeps me out a little bit when you imagine a world without an entire group of people. Like just imagine if it was the reverse and this was someone fantasizing about man world and there were absolutely no women, or a world without maybe like a specific ethnic group. But there actually is a really good book I've read with a similar premise to this called Ōoku, which is Japanese, and I think takes this basic idea of what if men gradually were decreased in population until there were no men left. And what I like about Ōoku is it just sort of takes that idea and explores it and imagines how the world would change without lecturing to me. Like, I don't think that the author of Ōoku is like a radical man hater. I don't think the author of Ōoku is a radical woman hater. I think the author of Ōoku was just interested in how having one man for every 10 women would have changed feudal Japan. It's a really interesting book that deserves its own review. Woman World suffers from not having a focus and not connecting with anything in reality enough to be meaningful. Now, I said at first I was willing to give the author the benefit of the doubt, and then I noticed this at the end. Idea. Also, something like this probably already exists. I'm not original. Woman world. Men have gone extinct. Also, when the men go extinct, it would be like women learning to talk again because they're not being interrupted. Okay, I've already started working on this as a potential next mini-comic. Lol, yes, I am down. Lamau, Aminder. So, yeah, there's nothing profound about this. This isn't going to be like a deep exploration of what would the world be like without men. This is kind of a cheesy, I think somewhat juvenile fantasy about, if the world was full of NPCs, interchat dead, NPCs everywhere. Look at all the NPCs. So let's take a few peek at some of these gags, because I think it reveals an interesting window into. I got it. This isn't Woman World. This is Portland, Oregon, socialist, Democrat, intersectional feminist woman world. Like real woman world would be interesting because, you'd have like your red state women who have all the guns and the blue state women who want the abortion rights. And maybe there'd be like a good old abortion war or something in real woman world. But the world of this comic is a very, very narrow slice of opinion. And so all the characters end up having kind of a similar voice to them. So it starts off with a little, once upon a time, there were men, and this doctor realized that the men were disappearing. I marked this because this was a little bit awkward word placement. I think this tag here should have placed here, because then it would have read more naturally. What ends up happening is you read this, and then you just kind of freeze here and try to figure it out, and you realize this is supposed to represent men gradually decreasing in the population and 100% women being born. I think if there had been space made for that caption under there, this would have read it as a continuation of this page, and it would have flowed with a little bit more balance. Now, we're going to see what I'm talking about here. So, as people are discovering that fewer and fewer men are being born, what's the debate that happens? We need to do research. We need to lower taxes. We need to do research. We need to repeal environmental regulations. We need to do research. We need to focus on economic growth. We need to do research. We need to lower the deficit. Republican strawman, Republican strawman, Republican strawman, Republican strawman. So 1 out of 10 people being born are men, and no one believes it's a ham-fisted global warming parallel that doesn't really work. Where are all my tags? And then nature destroys things. Okay, more political allegories. So Dr. Sharma decides he's going to try to figure out the problem of how can women reproduce all by themselves. So he gives up on trying to save men and decides he's going to try to come up with asexual reproduction. But when it came to a woman's body, the world had opinions. Suddenly, everybody was listening. So the message is, oh gosh, people, am I right? They care about controlling a woman's body. What's awkward about this is kind of subtly acknowledging that if men were dying out, most people wouldn't care. But then people care so much about controlling a woman's body that if a guy tries to figure out asexual reproduction, they'd just be so ticked. The men would have signs. The last men came out in droves to protest women's bodies. And then, okay, this is interesting. Men go missing so that their sperm can be sold on a black market. So what this is acknowledging is that if this really did happen, there would be an inversion of gender roles and there would be an inversion of sexual capital. Suddenly, men would not be sexually disposable. Suddenly, men would be economically sexually valuable, which is the premise of Ōoku. And Ōoku actually explores that idea. And this is just kind of like thrown out as a little side thing and then forgotten about. And then it's women's world, and we've got Gaia, like the Earth Mother, and Yumi, who's got spiky hair. I don't know anything about Lila. Oh, that's the one that someone has a lesbian romance with, and Lara, who's so silly. I don't remember who Uma is. Ulama is the grandma who remembers the men, and Emiko is obsessed with and interested in men. And Naomi, even though they're like 6 or 8 years old, Naomi is her lesbian love interest because we got to sexualize 8-year-olds, and 8-year-olds are obsessed with periods and sex jokes. And the doctor has had a double mastectomy for some reason. Is there a political reason for that? I don't know. And Ina, who has unrequited love for a woman. It's woman's world, everyone. And so Gaia is a representative of like an Earth Mother idea from like essentialist, kind of neo-pagan feminist literature. So as a nudist, she instantly takes leadership over all the women. So we've got a cult of personality where there's only one person interested in political leadership and she rules unchallenged. Okay, so I think my premise for this is if I tried to write a misogynist book, I don't think I could be more misogynist than Aminder Dhaliwal. So, women rule the world. Okay, so women are totalitarians. Check. I thought part of this was kind of cute, where the little girl, finds a Paul Blart Mall Cop DVD, and she's so interested in men, and she starts idolizing Paul Blart Mall Cop because that's the only image of men they have. All right, maybe that could have been a story, like a little girl who wants to grow up to be a heroic person like Paul Blart Mall Cop, and I don't know. I'm being a little too charitable, I think, to give much respect to any of the ideas and subplots about this. Okay, so what do women pick when they pick a flag to represent the vitality and strength and endurance of women? They pick Beyonce's thighs. Okay, so women are obsessed with Beyonce, and that a flag is supposed to represent your core ideals as a people. So being silly people obsessed with Beyonce is what women would do if they were all on their own. What should we name this time of history? The woman's period. Okay, so once again, we have, is this woman's world or cis woman world? Because not all women have periods. Aminder Dhaliwal. You're not just imagining a world without men. You're imagining a world of only cis women. What was this all about? They had an argument over whether the world would devolve into a lesbian orgy or whether we'd have monogamy. Yeah, well, why would you have monogamy in the lesbian paradise? Monogamy exists because men and women exist, and because when you have a baby, there's one man and one woman involved in that. So that it's because of really it's for the sake of women that monogamy exists, so that men can't just ditch and run off and go have like 100 sleeping partners and no kids to raise. So you're welcome, women, for monogamy. You needed it. Okay, I think that at some point Aminder Dalawal, because she's an intersexualist, must have realized there are some like unfortunate implications to having a world only of cis women. So her solution to the problem is to kind of like talk about trans issues in a roundabout way without making it clear what the heck is even going on. So little girl Akimo asks about transgender people, and then the grandma says, "Oh yeah, I think I kind of felt like a transgender person," but that contradicts stuff that comes later, and I don't know. Oh, they imagine if there's a god and what she would be like, like the mother goddess. So no religion, of course, no Christian women left over in women's world. It's just mother goddess Gaia worshippers left in women's world. Okay, they eat some strawberries, and this one's juicy and this one's ugly. Hey, don't judge it by what it looks like. That strawberry has feelings. You don't want to hurt that strawberry's feelings with patriarchy, even though we seem to do that later in this book. But yeah, you do not want to judge a strawberry using patriarchally defined standards of beauty and ugliness. Okay, this one was kind of interesting. So we kept arguing, and then she has the audacity to say, "If you love me, then you'll let me win this argument." So I gave her the face. What face? The face. Ooh, the face. So what I like about this, actually, is that it kind of acknowledges that you shouldn't demand that someone let you win an argument based on an emotional appeal. Every sexual attitude ever. Excuse me, I had a coughing fit there. Yeah, so don't demand that someone let you win an argument just because your feelings are involved. Wait a second. Whoa, Alminder. Are you on men's side after all in the gender war? Let's see. And so then the other side of the argument is her saying she should be able to win her argument about monogamy based on emotional manipulation. I don't like any of these people. I don't like anyone here. Why did I hate arguments, but disagreements are necessary to express your beliefs. But I hate the way they make me feel. But that feeling is you defending what you believe. But I always want to defend myself. But if you don't, no one else will. Stop, I'm not arguing. But you are, and that's good. Arguments. I don't like women don't like the way arguments make them feel. Feelings. I thought this was the most okay drawing in the whole thing, even though the elbows are kind of elongated. Because at least, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of a little girl looking up to a man and idolizing Paul Blart Mall Cop. I think that's the closest thing to a decent idea in this book. Okay, girls, time for your history presentations. I'm excited to see what historic events you choose to reenact. Our skin equal. My skin good. My skin is the best. Battle. Dead. Okay? Women don't appreciate history and the subtle complexity of history. They just see racism everywhere. I don't remember this. I don't remember this at all. Things are starting to fall apart in my memory hole. Good grief. It goes on and on. Every one of these I marked for a reason because of the way they made me cringe. Mayoral elections. Now's the part where I have to ask for your vote. I feel like garbage. Vote for me. And she's the only one running because women support totalitarianism and the cult of personality. And then they find out that all the other villages, well, they all name themselves after Beyonce too. Beyonce's locks of perfection, Beyonce's eyes of smize, Beyonce's lips, Beyonce's bust, Beyonce's behind, Beyonce's hands of creation, Beyonce's heels of triumphs. Even though earlier they said they don't know what heels are because heels are patriarchal. So not only is this village kind of vapid and obsessed with the cult of personality, all women are vapid and obsessed with the cult of personality when defining a national identity. They look back on old magazines. They can't believe the hideous images of patriarchal beauty standards in old magazines. They're terrifying. So scary. So scary. Well, the only way to make this gag work is to have an ugly drawing that departs from beauty standards. So in order to attack beauty standards, you have to recognize the existence of beauty standards, or you think you might be able to get around that problem, but you eventually won't. Grandma, when will I be a woman? And then she says, I am a woman. You go, girl. And no one cares. Okay, and this is weird too. Like, no one identifies as a man. There are absolutely no women who choose to identify as a man later in life. Why did I mark this? No. Okay, this was the part where I think she's trying to deal with like the problem of where trans people. I'd love to see a man in my lifetime. You mean find a way to bring them back? All children born from sperm banks identify female? What? So trans people are just gone. Like they're all being born biological women, and conveniently all of them are identifying women. Okay, I guess that's one way to defend the title Women World. It just so happened that absolutely no one identifies as trans. So I'm not a TERF. I swear that I'm trans inclusive. It just so happens that no one identifies as trans. That's all. Oh, I'm so beautiful because you just look like me. Oh, do you think feminism still exists? I just want to read this to you and kind of let this stand on its own. Do you think feminism still exists? I mean, in a world with only women, some may argue it not only exists, but is a reality. So if men don't exist, feminism is the reality. But if feminism refers to gender equality in terms women relative to men, well, then the moment men went extinct, so did feminism. Just enjoy the stars. Women would obsess over feminism after all male life on Earth died. Little girls are obsessed with periods because, of course, they are. They can't wait to feel sick and cry and have like their 8-year-old lesbian girlfriend. Two women have a talk about how nice it would be to have a baby. Can you imagine having a baby with widow hands and feet and that chunky thigh fat? OMG, that new baby smell, or that I just pooped. So this is women getting excited at the idea of babies, which women do in real life. They find babies adorable, and then they kind of like pause, and then she gets like that come hither glance. What if we stopped imagining it and did it? You said it would be amazing. So does she want to have non-procreative lesbian sex? Or does she want to have a baby, meaning they have to go to the Capitol and get a sperm donation and raise? This doesn't make sense. Does she want to go to bed, or does she want to have a baby? This doesn't have any rooting in reality. Women love to gossip. Ha ha ha. Women are such gossips. And are you secretly a MGTOW? Almander, is that it? Am I reading like a radical feminist person in disguise? That's a cute face. Paul Blart Mall Cop. The funniest thing in this whole book are just references to Paul Blart Mall Cop because it's Paul Blart Mall Cop. What is this? Women would still get upset over how a lot of classical musicians and artists are men because of patriarchy, even though all men are dead in this world. Ha ha, I guess women won when all men are dead. Women worship Oprah. Why? Dr. Sharma would never know it, but humankind was okay after all. The women spent their days appreciating loved ones, strengthening the community with their single tyrannical overlord, who's a representative of an essentialist TERF idea of feminism from the 1970s, wisening up and then forgetting about their unrequited love to get their lesbian lover. And then, oh look, grandma died, but she didn't really die because the little girl's so silly. Spreading love to cats, fighting spiders. How would they fight spiders if they don't have national borders and a national identity and a national army? Oh boy, thumb cards. Yay. I'm #1 Marmaduke fan. This has been Woman's World. Don't read it. Read Ōoku instead, because manga is objectively superior to Western comics.